Hi everyone, welcome to today's session. These are the topics which we'll be talking about today. So, first, we'll understand the types of applications which are currently present in the market, and after that, we will know how web applications actually work, and finally, we'll wrap it up with an introduction to servlets. So, all of these topics are really important. By the end of the video, you'll be thoroughly familiar with these basics. Alright, so let's just get started. Now let us know what are the main types of applications out there. Okay, so the first one is standalone applications. So these applications are nothing but the ones which we run on our own systems. Okay, let us understand these with the help of an example. For example, if I consider this calculator application, see, this is a desktop application because in order to use this, I have to install this, then I have to download it, and then I can use it offline. I even don't have the internet access right now, say, but still I can perform some calculations using this, right? So these applications are nothing but the ones which can be accessed without internet. Like currently I am running this application on my own system and I cannot share this same exact application with another system, right? That is why this is a standalone system. You cannot share this application. Okay, and also there is no need of internet for this. So from the example we have understood that these applications are installed on our device locally, right? That is why they also consume our system resources. So next we have web applications. Web applications are ones which we use directly from our web browser, so there is no need of any beforehand installation or downloading process for this. We can directly access these web applications by searching them on the web browser. Now let us understand this by using an example. So now let us understand what a web application is. Alright, for example, I'm a client user and now I want to search for Amazon.com. Okay, so when I type Amazon.com, this is my request. I press enter. Now what happens after I press enter is this particular request goes to the web server. The web server will analyze the request and it will send the corresponding response to the client. So we'll know how web applications work further in our class. So now let us know what mobile applications are. So these applications are designed specifically for portable devices. Okay, so this portable devices may include smartwatches, it may also include phones, tablets, etc. So if you want to install a step counter on your phone, or if you want to install a random game on your smartwatch, that is when these mobile applications come into picture. These are easily available on Play Store, App Store. Okay, so by looking at all of this, we can say that different types of applications have different uses. You can use them as per your needs. Okay, so now let us understand how these web applications generally work. But before knowing how these web applications work, we need to know what a web server is and what a web container is. Now let us understand what a web server is. So generally this web server, it is like a delivery person. Okay, it will take the client's request and after taking this request, it will send back a static response to the client. And some of the popular web servers are Apache, etc. So they just handle some simple tasks. Okay, they always and always respond with a static content. Next, we have web container. So, as I've told earlier, web server is like a delivery person, right? So, this web container, it is like a chef in the kitchen. So, unlike web server, this will deal with complex tasks. So, what this will do is it will take the request from the client, then it will interpret the server side code. Here we have server side code that may be written in Java, it may be written in Python. So what this will do is it will interpret it, and it will also interact with databases if needed, and then it will send back the dynamic response to the client. So some of the popular web containers are Tomcat and JBoss. The only main difference between web server and web container is in this web server which is present over here, it will only give you a static response, but the container, it gives a dynamic response. So now let us see how web applications work. First we have client request, then we have server response, and then we have client content display. So let us understand it more nicely by looking at this diagram. Okay, now we have the web browsers. So the client will send a request to the web server. That is, a client will enter some kind of URL on his or her browser. Okay, then it will go to the web server. Now this web server, what it will do is it will analyze this request. Whatever request it has got, it will analyze it, and then it will decide whether to send a static response or a dynamic response. After taking a decision, it will give back that response to the client. So now I've been telling you static response and dynamic response. So what are these responses actually? Let us see that. So what is a static response? Static response means it is already written and it is always and always constant. We cannot change a static response. For example, if we consider a Gmail login page, then it is always same for every single user who has internet, right? So if I open Gmail login page, I get the same exact page. It asks me the username and my password. Even if another person opens the Gmail login page, it is same for him also, right? So it is because they are written in HTML, CSS and JavaScript. Okay. Static response means basically it is not changing. It is always same for all users. Next we have dynamic response. Dynamic response means it is totally based on user actions. That means it is different for different users across the internet. Okay. That means, for example, see, earlier I took the example of Gmail login page, right? Let us take the example of the same Gmail, but dynamic response here means that whenever you click your username or your password, you click the submit button, right? After you submit your details, you will get your inbox of the Gmail. So this inbox is different for different users. I have separate inbox and other user on the internet has separate inbox. So this is called a dynamic response. So now this is how the web application actually works. So now I will enter some URL on the web browser. It will go to the web server. So now this web server is responsible for static response. So if the user is asking for some web page or some result that is similar for every user, then it will immediately give that result to the web browser, to the client. But if it has to do something with dynamic response, then what will happen is this request will go to the web container, and this web container has some server-side coding. So it will interpret this code, which is Java in our case. So it will interpret it and it will analyze it and it will prepare a result for it. So this resultant response is sent to the web server, and in return it is sent to the end user. So here in this web container process, or in this dynamic response process, this container may interact with the database because the data of different users is different, right? That is why it will interact with the database and then it will send it back to the client. Now let's talk about how Java is used in web development. So we'll see what are the Java editions. The first one is J2SE, which is Java to Standard Edition. So this particular edition is used for developing desktop application. It may be something like a calculator or a notepad or something of that sort. Next we have J2EE, which means Java 2 Enterprise Edition. So this particular edition is used for developing web applications. Okay, it may be something like an online website or few dynamic websites. Next we have J2ME, which means Java 2 Micro Edition. This edition is mainly used for developing mobile applications. It may be something like a game for a mobile or a step counter, etc. But we'll only be discussing about J2EE because that is responsible for developing web applications, and we are talking about that only. So let's see what J2EE has to offer. So there are a lot of components in this, but the main components are JSP servlets. So what is JSP exactly? So this is mainly used for presentation logic. That is, it is responsible for how the page actually looks to the end user. Next we have servlets. The main purpose of this is to handle the client requests. When a client sends a request to the web server, if it has to send a dynamic response, then it will go to the web container, right? That's where the servlets are present. So this will handle the client requests. Take a closer look at servlets. So servlets are a part of J2EE, which is nothing but an addition that is used to develop web applications, right? And the main purpose of these servlets is to handle client requests. That means if a user wants to perform an action, like when the user clicks on something, then the servlet is the one who is responsible to respond to this particular action. Okay, let us see how this works. So what happens is the client sends the request to the servlet and the servlet receives it. Afterwards, it will process this request. Okay, and this processing may include interacting with the database or even running some business logic. So what it will do finally is it will send back a response to the client. And this response may be a web page, it may also be some kind of data or any action that the user wants to perform. Okay, and mainly these servlets are present inside web containers, and here web containers play a huge role. They play a very huge role in managing these servlets. And a quite good example of web container is Tomcat. So we can say that Tomcat is a software which comes with web server along with web container. So it can be visually represented like this. So a web server exists and the web container is already a part of the web server. So this is how a Tomcat software looks. Thank you for watching. I hope you understood all these topics.